We have each listened to it one time, and I feel like since that's the impetus for this discussion about To Pimp a Butterfly, we should do a little mini review.
Yeah.
Quick thoughts on Mr. Morale.
I'll say this. I really think that this, I feel like only today in preparing for this video to talk about To Pimp a Butterfly, I feel like I only now actually understand it, even though I've been listening to it for 7 years. How well I understand it right now probably pales in comparison to how well I will understand it later on in my life. So yeah, like just imagine how long it's gonna take, like my whole journey of understanding Mr. Morale.
To me, my impressions of Mr. Morale, it's Kendrick Lamar. He has downshifted, right? It's much more sparse in parts. It's much more reflective. He's really looking back on his own life and on things that happened to him, and reflecting on what it means to be a father and a son and like a nephew, and like he's reflecting on family, and it's a really holistic, big picture view of what it means to just be a human, like what it from his perspective. And I feel like with Mr. Morale, he's kind of back in the To Pimp a Butterfly gear musically, but it's a different side of that gear, so to speak. To Pimp a Butterfly is asking a question. Mr. Morale is answering that question musically, but it's doing so in a very peaceful, contemplative, slower way.
Yeah, you use the word peaceful
to
describe the sound of Mr. Morale. There is a very, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, like if you imagine like when you finally get to heaven, everything is like kind of soft and pillowy and a nice blanket that wraps around you.
Totally.
Like Mr. Morale kind of has that sort of quality. Obviously, there are moments in it that are very hellish. So yeah, it goes other places too, but in general, yeah, it's a much more, it feels like home. What stood out to me is it's definitely the album that is the least about the world outside of himself. I personally know the 4 major albums: Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, and now Mr. Morale, which I'm going to be listening to about 1,000 times again in the next month or so. One of the central themes of all of them is his own personal experience and letting us know about the story of this chapter in his life, where he's at, and sharing his insights and things that he has discovered about life during that time. They all have that. But Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Damn are all equally about the whole rest of the world that he is a part of, always acknowledging that while his story is his and he's the only one living his, that he's not unique in the world. He's one of millions of people who have grown up in the same system. And so it's just as much about all of them and the entire setup of the world that makes that system even exist in the first place. It's equally about all those things as it is the story of the individual person who's inside of it. But Mr. Morale, I felt like, is much less about that and way more about this man.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a new chapter for him. I saw an article and a photo going around yesterday when the album came out, that he's in Ghana right now during the album's release. He's like living in Africa now. One of the things I pick up on in his music, especially his last couple albums, is like, you always hear people in hip hop talking about, like, you always hear people saying, like, don't be fake. You know, don't be...
especially in hip hop.
Especially in hip hop, right? You always hear about that. Like, don't be fake. Like they're always calling people out for being fake or whatever. He critiques, like, online internet culture and discourse and, like, Instagram culture and this, like, weird narcissism streak that is, like, so heavily, like, pervasive in our society now. He's, like, calling out like clout chasing.
Clout chasers. A person who strategically associates themselves with the success of a popular person or a current contemporary trend to gain fame and attention.
You might hear people say stuff like that all the time, but Kendrick Lamar is the only guy who can say something like that, and I believe him. I believe that he does not give a shit about that stuff.
Yeah, right, yeah, because it is its own now meaningless cliche to say stuff that, like, oh, people are always on their phone, people live on their phones. And like Kendrick has a line in this album that is, it's essentially that. It's like people who find their life in their phone or something like that, right?
Yep.
Which just the structure of the sentence is very much like what fucking every person posts on social media, as if that's some kind of profound thing to have noticed. Why is it that when Kendrick says that, it hits differently?
It's because it's true. It's because he's not on the internet. He doesn't have an online presence. He's not on the cover of magazines all the time.
But I mean, like, my uncle also walks that walk. He's also not on fucking Facebook, and he says that being on Facebook is dumb too. So why isn't it profound when he says it?
But your uncle is not. I'm sorry, Brandon's uncle, but you're not Kendrick Lamar though. That is the difference. It's Kendrick Lamar.
There's something else about that too, which is that like artists can like earn your ear. Like it's like the opposite thing of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. He's like earned the opposite of that. He's been so precisely accurate and on point about so many other things in the past without being off key about anything.
Yeah.
That it's now to the point where if he makes some sort of comment or observation on something,
it's noteworthy.
Yeah, you pay attention to what he's saying. Honestly, man, like some of the lyrics in Mr. Morale, I still don't fully understand. A lot of his lyrics about COVID and about the pandemic, I still don't fully understand what exactly it is that he's saying about it.
I get where you're going. Yeah, I do too.
Because like I had this moment where it's like for a moment I'm not sure if he's saying that like wearing masks was stupid.
Yeah.
And like, but there was this moment which is like, if that is what he's saying, I have to actually like think about that.
Yeah.
Because it's him saying it. So I'm not just going to throw away his take on something or throw away his opinion on something as quickly as I would throw away pretty much anybody else's opinion, as much as I disagree with it right away, You
do not tell us what to do with our faces. And what you're doing is you're part of a satanic mask-wearing ritual wearing that thing. You are part of a satanic mask-wearing ritual.
So we may or may not talk much more in depth about Mr. Morale in the future.
Someday.
But I mean, obviously, just after listening to it one time, clearly it is a thing that we could discuss for
forever,
hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.